Yeah, James, 115th border war happening here just under an hour. A big day for the Cowboys. Welcome in, Cowboy Nation. I am Ethan Bird.
And I'm Alex Eisman. It's a beautiful day in Laradice for some football. Of course, we have the great rivalry matchup, but also there's another special occasion going on today.
Yeah, really special. They're honoring the 30th anniversary of the 1993 team, the last Cowboys team that ever won a conference championship. Back then, it was the Western Athletic Conference. We got a special guest, Ryan Christopherson. Welcome and say hi to everybody in Cowboy Nation, a running back for that 1993 team.
Hey, thanks for having us, guys. We're excited to be here. This is the best game of the season for the Cowboys, the border war, man, and it's going to be a great battle.
Yeah, so first thing that I wanted to ask you is just what does it mean for you to be back here in Laramie with this team? I saw you walking around greeting old teammates and friends. It has to be very special for you, right?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic opportunity. 30 years ago, these guys made a decision that they wanted to be great. They came to work every day to be great, and it's a bond that we'll never forget. And just fun to reunite with them. It's especially to have us here against CSU. The biggest rival we could play.
Oh yeah. Well, we're standing right here in front of the legacy wall, and you've got one heck of a legacy with the Pokes. Up until a few years ago, you were the all-time leading rusher, drafted by the Jaguars. You scored the very first touchdown in Jaguars history ever. What does it mean to put on for the brand?
I love, we just toured the facility, and our sons are touring the facility today, and just talking about ride for the brand. I love that theme, and I grew up in Wyoming, and so it means everything to me to be a kid from Wyoming. And now there's so many of us that the guys are getting the opportunity to play in the NFL. But back then, not many of us got the opportunity, so it was just a tremendous. I just was grateful for the opportunity to be around the guys and get there.
The last thing I got for you is what's your score prediction for today?
42-0 Cowboys.
You're here first.
Go Pokes.
42-0 here, Cowboys. Thank you, Mr. Christopherson. We appreciate you and everything that you've done for Cowboy country.
Hey, thanks guys for having me. I appreciate it. Let's go, folks.
Enjoy the game.
Thanks.
The most hated rival in all of Wyoming is in Laramie today. The CSU Rams, 115th border war of all-time. Welcome in, Cowboy Nation. I am Ethan Bird.
And I'm Alex Eisman. It is a beautiful day for some football here in Laradice. Obviously special with the rivalry, but also special for another reason, Ethan.
Yeah, we're standing out here right in front of the Legacy Wall, and today the Pokes, they're honoring Legacy. After the first time out, they're honoring the 1993 Western Athletic Conference champions, the last Wyoming football team to have won a conference champion, with their co-champions, will even be a part of the championship. Pretty special to see them all here today.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be doing a ceremony, I believe, after the first quarter to honor the WAC champs. But getting to the game, Ethan, what do you expect to see out of Colorado State tonight?
Well, both teams coming off with some tough losses in their past week, and it's a rivalry game. No matter what's happening, there's going to be a lot of hard hitting and a lot of hard playing. But really, for CSU, you got to limit their playmaking. Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, the redshirt freshman quarterback, he's been slinging it all year long. They're one of the best passing teams in the nation. Torrey Horton is one of the top wide receivers in the nation. Dallin Holker is a great tight end. So the Wyoming defense is going to have to bend but never break. They're going to have to be pretty solid.
Yeah, and speaking of defense, we're going to get two of the best defensive players in the conference on the field tonight. Of course, Mo Camara on the Colorado State side and Easton Gibbs on the Wyoming side. But offensively for Wyoming, we're going to see a healthy dose of Harrison Whaley because CSU has had some issues with run defense, but really the X factor here is going to be Andrew Peasley. When he plays well, Wyoming wins football games. It's that simple.
Well, and if Harrison Whaley plays well, that opens up even more opportunities for Andrew Peasley. It'd be great to see Ayer Asante really display some of that playmaking ability that we know that he has. So some connections deeper down the field would be huge.
And they've gotten great play out of the tight ends too. Trayton Welch and John Michael Gillenborg have both had pretty phenomenal seasons so far, so expect them to get involved as well. But we will have a live show at 10 from the war. You will not want to miss it. And later on in that show, Nick Paniagua is going to have everything you need to know from the state volleyball tournament live in Laramie. I'm Alex Eisman.
And I'm Ethan Bird. Wyoming News Now Sports. We'll see you all later, everybody.
Wyoming News Now starts now.
What a win for the University of Wyoming in this 115th border war. You're watching Wyoming News Now at 10, a special post-game version. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
We're at an empty stadium.
It's empty now, but it wasn't full. It was, I think, over 20,000 fans made the trip. I mean, you know how much this border war means to the state of Wyoming, and a 24-15 win for the Pokes is exactly what this program needed.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you consider it's been two just heartbreaking losses for UW. Obviously, Air Force knocked them down out of Mountain West title contention for the time being, but Boise State, when you get blown out on the road like that, there's a lot of hype around people thinking, oh, maybe they can do it this year, maybe they could beat the streak, and to lose like that and really have those championship hopes crushed is tough. Yeah. But the fact that they came back and responded the way that they did tonight against their bitter rival, you gotta feel good for those guys.
The breaking news of it all is the boot is staying in Laramie.
In Laramie.
All of the students, they were on the field to make sure that they got to touch that boot another 365 days in the Cowboy State.
You know, I got to go touch the boot.
No, well,
that was pretty cool.
I was
first time I've ever touched a trophy.
Scrum. It was tight, but it's kind of a tale of two quarters tonight. The first half, low scoring, kind of a defensive battle, but in the second half, Wyoming, their offense and their defense really started to produce.
Yeah, 2 interceptions on Braden Fowler Nicolosi in that third quarter turned into touchdowns, and that is how Wyoming won this game. It was kind of typical what we've seen in fourth quarters from Wyoming this year, where they maybe make it closer than it should be.
Let's take a look at some highlights here. We'll get those going. But yeah, it was a very close game at the end. We were starting to get nervous. We were like, oh my gosh, there's a chance that this game goes a little bit longer and a little bit...
Definitely tighter than it needed to be, but an offense like Colorado State is explosive and it's effective, and they weren't going to stay down for that long. But I think that the Wyoming defense did a very good job, obviously creating turnovers, the 3-1 turnover differential. That second one was really the one that broke the camel's back for the Rams. Very bad snap that was returned to the 1-yard line, but still, Wyoming couldn't convert on second, third, and 4th and 1 from the goal line.
And those are the things that you have to be able to convert, because if you can't even convert from the 1-yard line, you've got to get that in. I mean, you have to punch that in, especially once you start playing bigger teams. UNLV next week is going to be quite a challenge.
Yeah, but you know, the interesting thing with, if you know Craig Bull, you know he loves to run the ball, especially when he has the lead in the second half, right? And when you're on the goal line, that third down where you take Peasley and you have him kind of bootleg out and look for a pass, you have Sam Scott who punched it in from 5 earlier in the game. That might have helped a little bit. Obviously, I'm no coach, but but you'd think that with Craig Bull calling plays, they would have ran it 4 times on the goal line there, but ultimately it didn't make a difference.
Well, Harrison Whaley couldn't get into the end zone today, but he bounced back in a big way. 128 yards on the day for Harrison Whaley. Back in his normal form, where we're used to seeing Harrison go for over 100 yards in the game. He did 3 in a row earlier in the season. I think he needed this one big time. Obviously, when we talk to him on Monday, he's going to be pretty upset that he didn't get that touchdown. But we going into this, we were saying the X factor is the effectiveness of Harrison Whaley, and they made sure that he was effective, and that opened up a lot of opportunities for Andrew Peasley.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, is you got to give Andrew Peasley his flowers tonight, too, because he made a lot of plays, especially with his legs, whether he was running for gains or he was just getting outside the pocket and making great throws to his receivers, and he spread the ball around pretty well tonight as well.
Well, and Harrison's understudy, Sam Scott, former linebacker turned running back, he had the solo rushing touchdown, but he also was the most targeted receiver on the field for today. Sam Scott, the sophomore, converted to running back this season. He had a really good run, but I mean, Ayera Asante getting a touchdown. I mean, we had 2 touchdowns to the corners, and those are hard passes to make.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Asante. And who scored the other touchdown for?
The second touchdown was from Gunnar Gentry.
Oh
yeah,
right.
Huge for Gunnar. Huge for Gunnar, a guy who's really been derailed by injuries his whole time as a Poke, and to get that, I mean, it was a toe touch pass.
Yeah.
It's that back corner of the end zone right there, and you have to feel so good for Gunnar.
Now, we're running out of time here. We could talk about a bit about this all day, but we've got to talk about what's coming up for the Pokes, because it doesn't get any easier next week. I dare I say, even potentially a little bit more challenging with UNLV.
It definitely will be harder with UNLV. UNLV is a team that beat CSU, but it's a must-win for the Pokes.
Absolutely. If they want, you know, their Mountain West title chances are not great right now, but if they lose to UNLV next week, it's officially
toast.
over. There's still a way, there's still an avenue for them to get there, but it won't happen unless they can go out and beat the Rebels, who are undefeated in the conference right now.
I mean, the good news is the final. Every game after UNLV is very winnable. You got Hawaii and Nevada. Hawaii here noon, a noon kickoff. I'm sure a lot of Wyoming fans are excited about that. They can get along with their day. But the remaining schedule it's win or go home. Have to win.
Absolutely.
Must win out. Now, yeah, again, that UNLV, it becomes a more challenging game. 8:45 p.m. kickoff, too. That's a very
Another Friday night
late.
game.
It's a late Friday night, and those are always hard. And so that's one worry there. But Hawaii, I think that's an easy win. I also think that Nevada's an easy win. I was a Colorado fan last year. Well, I still am a Colorado fan. I love the Buffs, and I think that Brendan Lewis just isn't the answer there. I think that Wyoming is just going to feast on him. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a contention.
Hawaii and Nevada, they're the bottom of the pack. Obviously, the biggest hump is going to be UNLV. A late night Friday game is going to be. And there's going to be a lot going into it, but they can't go into Boise had a lot going into it, and they need to go into it just as fired up.
And what's flying under the radar right now, what we haven't mentioned yet, is that the Pokes are now bowl eligible.
They are.
After
Oh my
6
goodness
wins.
gracious!
We get a bowl
6
game.
wins. That's a bowl game. But we need to wrap up the Pokes talk
Yes.
for right now. I will have so much more in-depth coverage all weekend from my shows.
Yeah, we have some really exciting content lined up, some awesome shots that you guys just aren't going to want to miss. I'm Aiden Greco, this is Ethan Bird, Alex Eisman. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Now, before we go, the American Red Cross wants to remind folks, daylight savings is this weekend. Can you guys believe it? An extra hour of sleep.
I'm really glad you reminded me. Because I had no idea.
So the American Red Cross is reminding folks, when you're turning your clocks back, you should also go test your smoke alarms. Let's take a look.